Hello and welcome once again to the 177 Nations of Tasmania podcast. Lithuania is a small country on the faraway Baltic coast, but one which has provided Tasmania with many migrants, particularly through the 1950s and 60s. The Lithuanian names, Dracanis and Dombrovskis, will be well known to Tasmanians for their stunning wilderness photography. So it would be fair to say that Lithuanian migrants have left their mark on Tasmania. Nowadays, though, the community is quite small and on the old side, as the flow of new migrants from the Baltic stopped many decades ago. So it is fascinating to meet a recent Lithuanian migrant, Gedi or Gediminas, who grew up in the independent Lithuania. And while the Lithuanian migrants of the past came as people exiled from their homes by the Soviets, Gediminas came for an entirely different reason, relating to sport, and currently he coaches soccer to children in the Launceston area. So to find out more about what brought Gediminas so far from home, and to hear a bit more about his homeland, please join me and listen on. Tell me what brought you to Tasmania in the first place?
Basically football, soccer here, football in Europe. I played all my life, so I had an option to come in 2018. So I thought it's a good opportunity to go and see other part of the world, and never been to Australia, and obviously it's a beautiful country, and I thought why not? So and I don't even now. How many 4 years later, I don't regret it. So everything's settled here and everything worked out well.
So how did that option arise for you?
Just online. I was talking to people on LinkedIn, and I remember before my good friend was telling me that he had an option to go to Australia as well, somewhere to mainland. And after that, he gave me some contacts to start talking, and then I got an option to come to Tassie straight away. And so I thought, why not? So it basically, I remember it worked out really fast. I started talking probably in like October 2018, and December I was already here with visa, because obviously the standard where I came from of football was higher, it was professional environment. And when I talked to the coach, the president of the club, basically coach was last person I talked from the club after the president, and we had like 30 minutes chat, and he said, I want to have you here ACP as soon as you can, and president helped me to get my visa, and I came here.
And how much did you know about Devonport in Tasmania?
So once I started talking to the club, I started Googling and seeing what's gonna await for me, and I started looking at some nature spots, national parks around, and the climate and the prices, because like I said, I never been nowhere close to Australia, so I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that Australia is a beautiful country, so and Google helped me, and I saw the population of each major cities: Launceston, Tasmania, Devonport, Hobart, obviously capital, that is similar size as my hometown. So I thought would be probably easy to settle in as well, because you're not coming to massive city of a couple million of people. So it made it easy to make a choice.
Oi šermukšnio, kur tu augai tarp balių.
In football, in professional, as you're an athlete, your time, you basically have like 10-15 years in your career. So I was at the time probably around 28. So, and like I said, we started talking to my good mate that he was about to go play maybe in Australia, and I thought, would be probably not too bad, because obviously it's a good opportunity to visit a country while you're still playing. So it's very easy to meet people and make connections and stuff, and you can always show yourself and see what happens. And so at that time probably I would say the age, and because I had a family in America, I had a choice to go to America a year or 2 years before I came to Tasmania, but I remember it would be a professional environment over there as well, but I got an injury. My foot got break, and I couldn't go there anymore. So after that, I was talking to some agents in there, but like I said, after I started talking to Australian clubs. So basically, I went there in a couple months. I would say time of career for sure. If I would be early 20s, I wouldn't consider that because obviously all the football is in Europe, so I wouldn't even think about it probably. But when you get in late 20s, then you are like, oh, what you want out of your life, because eventually you're gonna stop playing. So I thought it would be really good to go visit a country like Australia and still play and still enjoy the game. And obviously it's not a professional environment, but still playing the same game and see the country and meet new people and see how it goes.
Oi sharmukshna kurato auge tarbalu.
So what kind of place did you grow up in? What was
I grew up in the west of country in Klaipeda. It's our port city. It's one of the bigger ports in Europe. I think it's the only port which doesn't get frozen in winter. In Europe, yeah, I think so. You can use it full year. Obviously, in that region,
in
because,
northern,
in that region, because a little bit more south you have hotter weather. But in the north, I think it's the only port which is operating all year round. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up there. Like I said, I spent basically all my life till I turned 15 and a half probably. And it's nice area. I love it. We're actually planning the trip over there now in September this year, so I can't wait. I haven't been there already 3 years almost. Mm-hmm. So I can see pictures on Facebook on different places how it's changing, and the new roads are being built and new parks and stuff. So I cannot wait to see it. And but it's nice area. It's we have a lot of beaches over there. We have like a peninsula where I love to go by bike. You catch a ferry for like 10 minutes trip by ferry, and you are suddenly in like a forest of 50 kilometers length. I was living to even for my recovery after games and even like trainings, just to get on the bike and do some cardio in the forest. You see some animals as well, and it's beautiful. So it's the biggest thing what I hated about living in Lithuania was the climate, for sure. Mm-hmm. So even here we sit now in third winter day in Tasmania, and we sit outside and the weather is not perfect, but it's all right. And
it's not snowing.
Yeah, but back home you wouldn't be able to do that in third winter day, let's say. And the worst part about our bad period, our winters, that it lasts very long. So if a bad weather lasts here in Tasmania, let's say 2-3 months, back home is like 6 months. So, and the weather is a lot worse than here. So when you think it's already worse, a lot colder, and it also lasts, instead of 3 months, double. And people asking me here, how can you live in those temperatures? And like, you just get used to that, and you obviously use different clothes, different shoes, and all the time the beanie on, the gloves on. You don't want to go without gloves in -10 degrees because it's gonna be freezing. Your fingers gonna be frozen and they're gonna be numb. So I remember a couple of things. Probably the person who would come from like Australia or a hot climate, they would get into a big trouble, because I remember when I was a kid, I was playing a lot with snow, and because I was a kid, I didn't know that when your limbs, when your fingers, let's say, getting very cold, you cannot go under the hot running water and try to warm them up. And I remember when I was a kid, I did it, and it was such a big pain. I still can remember that pain only by trying to heat them, my hands up under the running hot water while it being frozen. And I think it's something having with blood circulation or something like that. But it was massive pain. So obviously now I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. As a child, like, what did you do in winter? What kind of activities?
I remember like we did crazy things. When I think now, I was like, wow, like, that would be cold freezing weather, let's say, and in school, in between the lessons, when we had a break, let's say 20 minutes, long break, 25 minutes, we would go outside, and kids are silly sometimes. We would catch someone, would put in the snow, and it's called like bath in the snow.
Okay.
So we would do like silly things, like kind of a little bit of abusing some kids, and like they would try to put a lot of snow under the clothes and like in the face, and like it's kind of like fun things for some, but for some, it's not very fun, obviously. And we would do things like that, playing with snow, and your hands would be frozen. And when I think now, like sometimes you get out of a house here in Tasmania, and you're like, oh, like it's not very warm, but when I was younger, I was going in probably jeans and a small jacket and a thin jacket out when it was -10 to play outside with snow. So then you're like, oh, it's actually not that bad. So obviously, when you're a kid, you like I remember even when I was a kid playing with a ball in the snow, just by myself, kicking the ball in the deep snow, like half a meter snow, trying to do some overhead kicks. You fall and it's nice and soft. So many different things. You obviously just kid so you always find some things to do. I would say.
Oi šermukšnio, kur tu augai tarp balių.
When I was youth, so I started playing in kindergarten, obviously just for fun, like all the kids do. And before 15 years old, I was living all my life in my hometown, Klaipeda. And after that, I had an option to go to a capital. There was a lot more professional environment. We're coming from training only like 3-4 times a week to like 7-8 times a week, so it's basically like full-time, and I needed to move by myself without my family, just being 15 years old. It was called Olympic Center of Lithuania, so where all the best athletes are of all the different sports. I had another option to go to the other city in Lithuania as well, fourth biggest, and capital obviously is the biggest in the country. And I wanted to go to the smaller actually city because that's where two of my very good mates went before me. And I thought, it would be good to join them and good friends and stuff. But I remember how much my parents, some of the other coaches were trying to make my choice to go to the capital, because we said that the capital always going to be more opportunities for you as an athlete. So just go there and don't even think about joining your friends, because you still can meet with them anytime, basically, in free time and to holidays, whatever. I'm really happy now when I look back, probably 16, 17 years ago, that I made this choice. And when it was very tough because obviously when you're 15, you're leaving all your family, all your friends, and you're moving by yourself to new environment. And like I said, it was a lot different as well, because I was training like from like 3 times back home to 7-8 times, which is like 2 times a day, 3 times per week. And it was a big change, but because I loved the game all the time, I had dreams to achieve professional standards, so it helped me, and that's where basically formed me as a player as well. So that time of 15 years old, moving to an environment like that helped me a lot. So after that, I finished school in the same Olympic Center. All conditions there were perfect. We had everything basically in one building: school, canteen, sports medicine center, gym. Our arena training center was only like 3-4 minutes walk, and it was great, and everything was in the right spot, so it was easy, because our capital is pretty big, so you can get stuck in traffic and stuff, so it was really easy that everything was in one area. So after that I finished school and I signed my second professional contract. After the school period, I went to the other club, and we played against like some known clubs like Fulham FC from England, and in the Europa League qualification stages. And after that I played in couple different cities around Lithuania. In total I played in probably 10 clubs over in Lithuania, Estonia and Poland before coming here to Tasmania.
What were sort of the biggest changes that you experienced or had to adapt to?
I think a bit of everything. Workloads in trainings, there were so many times when I literally in the morning would need to go downstairs, upstairs, and I barely could walk. Like the workloads were like I said, I still was young, like 15 years old, but workloads were massive, like it was a lot of hard work, professional work with many different like sports scientists and stuff. So we tried to build you as an athlete. Workload in football, I would say, was massive difference. Living by yourself without parents as well, because obviously used to having food. I had food ready over there because we had canteen and club was looking after us a lot. So I had food there, but still, when you live with mom, she cooks and she helps you all the time, and she even cleans and stuff. And then you're getting suddenly 15 years old and live by yourself. So it's a pretty big change as well. And obviously all your friends who you had before, you don't have them at the same space around you. And it's getting out of a comfort zone. So I remember first couple months probably were really tough. I tried to get home first opportunity I could. So it's like 3 hours drive, probably 4 hours by bus, because at that stage I obviously wasn't driving a car. So it was like 4 hours trip by bus. So every single time I could get home after like Saturday's training or game, I would go like even for a day I would travel 4 hours. Next Sunday I would be at home, and Monday morning I had already the school plus morning session. So but I don't care, I just gonna go spend Sunday and gonna leave like 4 a.m. by bus Monday morning to get home to where I live now. So I still sacrifice a lot of traveling time just to be like one day at home to meet my friends, meet my family, and go home. But after a couple of months, I got settled more and more and more. I started talking more with boys around the club, and they made the life a lot easier for me. So built some friendships, and so then I was like, okay, now I'm capital person.
And so what did the program, did it just consist of focus on football, or was there like a academic component?
I remember even now that coaches were telling us, because obviously when you move from like I said, like half professional, semi-professional standards, where majority of the youth players were doing all around the different cities in Lithuania. And not only Lithuania, it's probably anywhere in the world like that, unless you're getting into the professional academy. And so even then I remember coaches were telling us a lot that you come here to this environment, but you still need to study, you still need to do your homework, because I remember they tried to threaten us that if you're going to be very bad at school, you're not going to be allowed to train and play, and they eventually gonna kick you out of that center or something like that. But they obviously, if you're playing well, they wouldn't do that. So I would say I was in the middle. I wasn't very bad, I wasn't very good in school. So before moving there, I remember school was very important, because always my parents were telling me that as good you're gonna be in school, as better your future gonna be look like. But when I moved there just to play a lot, straight away my marks went probably from, we have 1 to 10 in Lithuania, so it went from like average of 8 to like average of like 6.5, something like that. And obviously I missed a lot of lessons because we had like very, very hectic schedules of trainings, because our school was set up so we could train twice a day. So we would have 3 lessons in the morning, 8 to 10:35. And then 11 would be the first training, and then the second part of the school would start 1:50, I think, and from 1:50 to 6:30, something like that, and then around 5 you have a second training. So sometimes you would get after first training in the morning, and you'll be like, I cannot go to school, I need sleep, like I'm too tired. And that would happen to many players, because like I said, workloads were very, very high, very big, and that's why like school, you wouldn't think about school that much anymore. So obviously it definitely went down by a lot. I remember in the grade 12, our school year starts 1st of September. First time I got to school was mid-November, so basically like 2.5 months later, because we had we had like national team competitions in like qualification stages. So we had many training camps to get ready for that, and then I traveled to one training camp abroad. Then we had this qualification in I don't even remember, Germany maybe. Then I went to Hungary, I think, with another national team with a little bit older players. And yeah, I remember. And then we had normally we have end of October the school break, which is like 2 weeks of school break. And yeah, I got back after those 2 weeks back to school. And I remember my teacher who looked after us called my mom, and she was like, look, like Gedi not gonna finish school because he has already like so many bad marks, and it's, you know, he came first time after like 2.5 months after school year started. But I said to my mom, and my mom was stressing. She was like, "Oh, what you done? What have you done? What's gonna happen now? You know, you're gonna be spending extra year to be in school." And I said, "Mom, don't worry, I'm gonna fix it." And yeah, I made it happen. Obviously, I needed to do a lot of work, like out of when I was having free time or something like that. But yeah, I finished school.
Oi sharmukshna kurato augai tarbalu.
I guess that post-Soviet period, Lithuania would still have had some of the, you know, the remnants of the previous era.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember probably the biggest thing would be the even people who are talking in Russian.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like you said, everything gets modernized, and building roads, building buildings, and upgrading cities. But I would say the biggest like part of that Soviet Union stayed, especially in my city, because we have a lot of Russian-speaking people, and yeah, some people still, which a lot of people are annoyed about, that they still don't talk at all in Lithuanian.
Yeah.
And they always talk Russian, and you know, we do watch Russian TV and many things connected with Russia, and yeah, there are a lot of people like that. So especially now when war is happening in Ukraine,
Yeah.
basically those type of people are the ones who causing things like wars, just because we live in other country, but they count themselves as Russians.
Yeah.
So you know, they would probably do anything for Russia, but not for Lithuania. But we're still in Lithuania,
Yeah.
and yeah. So before that, I would say not too many people were disliking them, but in things like in times like war now, what's happening in Ukraine, a lot of Lithuanians really don't like them. Just because they actually can be a national threat as well, because they, like I said, even happened that our national television, they started blocking Russian channels, so we cannot see the propaganda on TV. So, you know, if you live in the other country, you should understand what's happening. You cannot be brainwashed and think that all the world is bad except Russia, and you know, the modern world, modern civilization tries to, you know, hurt Russia or Russian people. I know a lot of Russian people, and I have nothing against them. Like, well, I met a lot of nice Russian people as well, and I always even was telling here when I came to Australia that people obviously were thinking that Russia is a monster and stuff, and I was trying to tell that not everyone is bad, not everyone thinks the same way.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's part of the people who still think the way how we actually act, the whole nation, let's say, not the whole nation, but the president and the army and stuff. But a lot of people hating it, and so they're just afraid to tell that, because, you know, in the Russian laws, if you're gonna get on the street and protest, you're gonna get in prison for 5, 10, 15 years. So a lot of people doesn't have a freedom of speech. So
Yeah.
that's the sad thing about it. So.
Oi sharmukshna kurato augai tarbalu.
Obviously, when I came over here to Tasmania, I was shocked. The first day when I moved to here, I was shocked, I remember, because I couldn't understand what people talk. I got first training in Devonport to the dressing room, and I couldn't understand. Before I had family in America, I was traveling like 4 times in America. I didn't have issues to talk in English, but when I came to Tasmania, all the slang words, different accents, and I couldn't understand. I was like, wow, out of 10 words, I probably get 3 words. And I was like, what? Like, because I was very confident that I'm gonna be all right with language.
Yeah.
But once I get, and people wouldn't understand me either, because obviously of my accent. And yeah, it took me probably, I would say 1 year, maybe a little bit less, but around 1 year to get into like Australian accent, slang words, and even I remember like some funny accidents were happening. I was in the beginning of Devonport before club found me a house. I was living with my teammate, and I remember he called me after he finished work, and he was asking me what would you like for tea. I was like, no, mate, I want to have some food maybe now. I don't want tea before training. I said, I want to have some food. He was like, yes, what would you like for tea? I was like, nah, mate, like, I don't drink tea too late. I said, it's gonna affect my sleep time, sleep, whatever.
Okay.
And he was like, no. So, and only later I realized that tea is dinner. But so words like that, like, I never heard before that, One boy was telling me, oh, look, it's spitting outside. And I started looking for people. I was like, what? Spitting? And I couldn't find anyone, just the street and cars. He was like, yeah, it's raining. I was like, so it's raining, it's drizzling, but it's not spitting. So yeah, it's different change, obviously, but yeah, I got used to that, so now I'm kind of local about it. So.
Oi sharmukshna kurato augai tarbalu.
It's the biggest challenge when people talk. Even now, my mom came here a couple of months ago to visit us, and obviously her English is not at good level. She can understand, she can talk, but she cannot talk fluently. And yeah, like all the people from my family around here, I was always telling them, don't rush while you're talking, and pick the easiest word, don't talk slang, and she can understand. If you're gonna start talking as you would talk to anyone local here, she's not gonna get it. But if you're gonna talk slowly, pick the word, the simple words which everyone understands, I said she's gonna be all right. So, and that's how even my mom was telling me, I cannot get them, we talk too much, like we talk too fast, like all the words we're putting into the sentence, like doesn't make any sense for me. So can you tell them to speak a little bit slower? So that's gonna help a lot.
And I think local people underestimate how difficult it is to understand them if you're just new.
Yes, especially like you said, probably you had experience traveling around. A lot of people in Tasmania, they haven't been out of Australia, probably. I would say. So no, when you don't get into a different environment where people talk completely different language, you probably don't even realize that it can be hard. It can be making massive difference in people's lives as well, because especially if someone moves here by themselves and we cannot communicate, we cannot make friends, we cannot get confidence and stuff. I remember actually myself that now obviously my language a little bit is advanced, but before that, if I would know a person, I would speak a lot better English. But if I wouldn't know a person, let's say you talk to someone unknown, you actually have it in your mind that you lack a confidence, and even before you start talking, you're already out of confidence that you cannot communicate very well. So it's a mind thing as well, that obviously with people who you trust, who you know that they can understand you, you feel a lot more confidence compared to the people who you meet first time in your life. So.
Was there anything in particular that helped you improve your English or overcome some of the problems you had initially?
Just probably the experience, just the more I talk. For me, the biggest thing which helped obviously was that I didn't have any other people talking other language than English. So everyone was talking English around. So I needed to talk every single day, every every hour, every minute. So that made the difference. The same, like I said, my mom is visiting now. Obviously, she has me, so she talks to me in Lithuanian. But if she would be here by herself, her English would be 3 times better now, probably, because she spent already 3 months. In those 3 months, if you talk English non-stop, you would improve a lot more. It's like a training. But I would say I improved a lot by just because I needed to talk.
Oi šermukšnio, kur tu augai tarp balių.
I had only 1 year visa at that time, and I couldn't stay for longer than 1 year because you need to get out of a country before you can apply for next visa. And actually, first time in my life in 2018, I was coaching a bit in Devonport, coaching football. And I remember it was my first experience in life. Before that, I just played all my life professionally, and I thought, oh, maybe I would like to be a coach later in my life, but I didn't have any qualification in coaching. So that's why when my visa expired, then I thought, oh, it would be good to get the license at the same time, and I have no visa, and go back home, study the visa, and not visa, study the license, and I have a qualification. So yeah, that's what happened. But because I had before leaving in the end of 2018, I met a girl in Launceston, and basically when I moved back to Lithuania, she visited me in summertime in Europe, in wintertime in Tasmania. So she came like 5-6 months later to visit me, and we started talking more and more and more, and in the end I came back to Tasmania basically just because of her, just because now we have a daughter 2 years old, and she was probably the main reason why I came back to Tasmania, because like I said, I wanted to be in a little bit more professional environment in terms of football, and Tasmania doesn't have it, but when I started talking to her more and more and more, basically Tasmania now became my home, so home number one. So that was the second spell. It started in the end of 2019, so right before COVID. I came back to Tasmania, and 4 months later our daughter born. And then COVID was a big thing, so I couldn't, even if I would want to, I couldn't go back anywhere, neither Europe, neither anywhere else. So I started coaching here. I was still playing as well, so I started coaching more and more and more. So I built like my business, private coaching, and so from 2020 I started coaching basically, I would say 3-4 times a week. And now from beginning of this year, I coach every single day during the week, and I start coaching at the club as well. So I have two different teams at the club, and plus my players who I coach privately, and I coach also at the biggest college in Launceston, St. Pat's College, and so I coach there as well. So fair bit of coaching, still playing, so don't mind it, because I love football, I love sport, and I love helping new generation, new players. So it's not the easiest thing to work with kids. Obviously, pros and cons, but I'm enjoying it. And
you describe your style.
Yeah, I'm definitely different compared to Tasmanian style.
Yeah.
Not only maybe Tasmanian, but Australian as well. I'm obviously different mentality. I try to be in between how I was coached when I was young, and how kids are being coached here by local coaches. So I know, like, I have experience where when I was like 8-9 years old, and I had a Russian coach, and he would literally bash us during the game, during trainings, if he would do something wrong, if he would, I don't know, too much talking or something like that. Like sometimes he would bash people, bash kids, and which is not acceptable, obviously. But I had this experience. I've been being like screamed at and stuff like that, and which helped me in some way to build my discipline. So I try to be in between. I try to be tough sometimes, but I know that when you're tough on the players, on the students, it helps. like it pushes you forward, and you get out of them more and more and more.
This is one situation where I think it helps having a foreign accent.
Yeah, probably.
With kids, because it's a little bit scary. You can sound scarier.
Yeah, probably.
When you
So,
shout.
yeah, and but I always tell them, look, like I can be tough on you. First thing I always. Probably rule number one, that I always deal with any different player same way. There are no players who I like more or like less. If I see that someone does the wrong thing, I'm gonna tell it. And another thing that every time when I scream and I try to tell that we're training shit or something like that, which I tell a lot. If you do that, it needs to be on the same page for everyone. If we come to train and get better, like you cannot do whatever you want. So. When I tell them all the time, if I criticize you a lot, it's not because I want to make you less confident or something like that. I just want to push you forward. And I believe that works. So kids are improving, and I try to get most out of what we're capable of.
Yeah. And that kind of thing shows that you care about what you're doing. And
yeah,
helping them,
definitely. I try to make it a little bit more professional because, like I said, we don't have that professional standard. But I always try to tell them that, especially kids, all kids are same. They have 2 feet, 2 hands, 1 head, and it's more about if you have a desire, in.
Ой, шармукшня, курту аугей тарбалю.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about your name, Gediminas.
Gediminas.
I got it wrong again. Because I should get the name right, because I have heard that. I know it's a common Lithuanian
Yeah, it's
name.
one of most common.
Because there's a bit of history.
There was a king, Gediminas, who won many battles, many for Lithuania in the history, and I think he won one of the main battles, which made a lot of difference in the history in terms of territory and things. So it's called Duchy. It's like a queen.
That's Duke, Grand Duke,
Gediminas. Yeah. So we have like a main castle in the capital, which is like Gediminas Castle, and like I said, that Grand Duke Gediminas, he was like one of the most historical, not the head of the army, but something like that, who won battles and in terms of gaining territory and stuff.
Yeah, so it's kind of a national
hero.
Yeah, I guess you'd call it. Even though it was actually quite big at one.
Yeah, at one stage we were one of the bigger countries in Europe. We were connected with Poland, and we were basically from Baltic Sea to the Black Sea.
Yeah.
So the territory of Ukraine at the moment was part of our country, so connected with Poland. So we were, I think, at one stage even the biggest country in Europe, or one of the biggest. But obviously later we lost some wars, so we became tiny.
Yeah.
Like I said, even our language, you can talk in our language only in Lithuania, but it's one of the older languages in Europe.
Ой, шармукшня, курту аугей тарбалю.
So, is there anything that you miss about Lithuania?
Probably a couple things. Biggest one, I would say, some of the food, dark bread. We have it similar bread, not similar, rye bread, let's say dark bread in Woolies, let's say in some bakeries, but it's not the same. So when we have a traditional snack, which is fried bread with cheese, and it's probably if I would go to bar with my friends, I would definitely order it because it's very simple one, but it's very tasty. And you need to have specific bread for that. So we don't have it here. So definitely when I'm gonna go in September, that's gonna be number one snack for me. And probably that's obviously I miss family, friends, but out of food, that would be number one thing.
Ой, шармукшня, курту аугей тарбалю. Ай-яй-яй, курту аугей тарбалю. Курту аугей тарбалю, тарбшу жалю саману.